Hi all of you. Again welcome to the new session. And due to some technical issues the last week I know there was a lot of inconvenience regarding the classes. We are trying to launch our own app. Maybe by Wednesday it should be ready, and all your recorded videos you would be getting in the LMS dashboard, and how to use that app and all those things. A separate video would be given to you where you will be able to easily understand how to use the app there. And don't worry about the recorded videos, they will all be available to you, but it might take around 2 to 3 days from now. So but in the meantime, anyway, we will continue with the classes. So all your messages and chatting part, as you know, you should be doing it in the Slack group. And if in case still some of your friends who have not joined the Slack group, it is better to join there, because all the major announcements like the placements, upcoming drives, the test schedules, everything would be updated in the Slack. And in the new app that we are now launching, it would always have notifications enabled whenever your class is scheduled, whenever the mock interview is scheduled, along with when the tests are taken, have to be taken, everything you would be getting a notification on that. And without fail, all of you should be installing that app, and I would be giving the link also, and that link will be shared in the Slack group. It's quite a lightweighted application, so it should not be a burden for you. So in just in a fraction of second it would get installed, and from then on you can be accessing the recorded video. Yeah, now all said and done, we have to get back to the discussions now. So today whatever we are now going to discuss is one of the most important topic, and one of the favorites for interviewers to ask questions on, something called as the static keyword. Maybe we have been discussing about Java for quite a long time now, and in the initial classes I have already told you, whenever we start to learn subject, we would not be able to explore all dimensions of it in the first go. And today we are now going to explore the depth of the subject to the next level, where you would get a complete clarity on how a Java program gets executed. Yes, this much amount of time we had to spend so that we understand at the memory level how a program really gets executed. And till date we all had a wrong notation about where the Java program starts to get executed. Since I was not able to convey it to you all these days, we had all believed that it would start from the main method. But maybe after today's discussion you should be able to rechange that perspective from where a Java program starts to execute. And there are a lot of technical stuffs, and very important, from day one I have been telling, programming is not about writing coding, it is all about representing things in the memory. Once we can do that, no matter what type of program is given to me, I would be able to write it. So as I always tell, for the next 2 hours, complete focus, because the discussion would be quite technical, and if in case you lose out focus in between, you would find it very difficult to follow. And more importantly, the memory maps that are written, you should not be copying it blindly. You should be able to build it. Maybe the first program, yes, you can do it, but moving forward into the discussion, you should use the board only for the reference, and the entire memory map you should be able to build it. So take down the new heading in a new sheet as static variables, or you can take it as static keyword in Java. Static keyword in Java. Yeah. So now once we start to discuss, there will be lot of questions, lot of doubts at the back of your mind. Till the session gets over, don't allow any doubts to get into your mind, just follow what I am trying to tell. Maybe by the end of the session, if you still have any doubts, we will have a discussion. So as I am again repeating, the things that are going to be discussed are quite technical, so complete focus from your end is required. Madha sir, you have already written all this, and what is that you are now trying to tell? Just keep on focusing now. Assume now we are about to write a very simple program, And as we all know, if you are now writing any program, that program must be stored inside a file. And I assume that maybe the program name now is demo1.java. We don't know what program we have written, but I assume that inside this file now I will be writing my program. You might now ask, sir, what program are we now writing? Just focus on this now. I would now tell I have a very simple class and the class name happens to be demo. You can give any name, but I am giving the name as demo. And in this now I am about to declare two variables. One is A, the other one is P. And for some reason now I am declaring two more variables. One is X and other one is Y. And I would like to close this class by name demo. But there is one change which I now do. For some specific reason now, I want this variable X as well as Y to be declared as static. Oh. Yes, this is the new thing that we are now introducing into our discussion. We will see what all would happen to X and Y, because A and B I have declared the way we have been doing all these days. There is no change in that. But now for some reason I want this variable X and Y to be declared as static. The next question now is, when we make it as static, how is it different from A and B is the question now. Yes, we will try to explore that also. For that reason I would now be writing another class. And the class name now I would make it as demo1. Carefully watch this now. For specific reason I would have now told this as public void, this is main, followed by this is string of args. If you notice here, for specific reason I have not told it as static, because if I now make it as static we will get diverted during the discussion. But when you type in these programs, again listen to this carefully, when you type in this program, for you to get the output correctly you have to make this static. To make the discussion simpler, maybe until 2 sessions I will not make this as static, so that our focus will be on what we are trying to discuss. Okay, now within this I would have now told you that demo type, 3 variables I require, D1, D2 and D3. And for all the 3 now I will tell I would require an object. So this is your new demo. Once again I would now tell this is a new demo who will be pointed by D2, and once again I would now tell this as new demo pointed by D3. For time being this is sufficient for me. I will close the main method and the class. So it's quite a simple program where we have created 2 classes. We would compile it now. Assuming that there are no errors, we are into the running mode now. Get this carefully now. Whenever you are now about to run a Java program, whatever files you have on the hard disk should be loaded onto the RAM. That's a very old story. Because end of the day it's a microprocessor who will execute your program, who in no way can access the contents in the hard disk because of the organization of the computer. Now, when your program gets loaded onto the RAM, today we may have to go deeper and see how my program would go and sit into the RAM and where in the RAM my program would go and sit. Keep this in mind now. Whenever your Java program starts to run, the program for which you are now running on the RAM, carefully watch this now, you would have something called as the code segment, and followed by you will have something called as the stack segment. And today I will now be introducing a new type of memory called as the static space. This is a static space. And along with that, notice it, you will have something called as the object space. You have something called as the object space. Your static space and the object space will be in the heap itself. Today I am just trying to get deeper into the heap and checking what is there in the heap now. And in the heap I came to know that there is something called as the static space. Along with that you will have something called as the object space. This much RAM would be kept ready when you are about to run your program. And you might ask, sir, next what? When you are about to run your program now, notice it. Obviously loading will happen where your file from the hard disk will enter into the RAM. And keep this in mind, when the program from the hard disk enters into the RAM, you can't put the code wherever you feel like. You might now ask, sir, then where will it go and sit now? Remember, every Java program, when it starts to run, your entire program will get loaded onto the code segment. So this is your class demo, this is your two variables A and B, followed by your X and Y. This was your first class. It would get loaded and you have told these two people to be static, let them be there. And along with that, you also have a class by name demo1, and in that you have your coding. So this is your public void, followed by this is main, followed by as normal this is your string of args. And the remaining part of the coding, whatever you have now told there, what is that you have requested for? This is your demo, D1, D2, D3. Your coding, D1 is now equal to new demo, D2 would also now be equal to new demo, and finally you have D3 would also now be equal to new demo. Close the main method and the class. So exactly whatever program you have now written, that program would come and sit onto the code segment. This is your very first step. If you ask, sir, after this what would happen? Here is where you have to focus very carefully, because there are new things that I would try to introduce now. As soon as your program comes onto the code segment now, second thing that happens to your program is, notice this very carefully, onto your stack now, onto your stack segment, your entire JVM gets loaded. Onto your stack segment, all these days whatever JVM we have been speaking from many days, that entire JVM will come and sit onto your stack segment. And remember, your program will not start to execute directly, because there are many things that will go into starting of executing of a program itself. So I think two steps I am clear now. One, program has come and sat onto the code segment. Two, your JVM now has got loaded onto the stack segment. You might ask, sir, next what? Notice this carefully. All these days it was not required, so we had not discussed on this. If you ask, sir, now what would happen? Notice this very carefully. JVM will now hand over the control to one person called as the class loader. JVM will hand over the control to a person called as class loader. You might again argue, sir, all these days this was never told to us. I have told you, all these days the requirement was not there. So the third step is also clear now. Program has come and sat, JVM is on to the stack, JVM has handed over the control to the class loader now. Class loader has multiple jobs to be done. We will explore one by one. Once the control is given to the class loader, the very first job for the class loader is to search for all such variables which are associated with the static keyword. I think I am clear on the point. So when I get the control as a class loader, my duty is to search in the entire program. Let there be 2 classes or 20 classes. In every class, I now need to check for such variables which are associated with the static keyword. So as a result of that, class loader will start its job now. It will start to scan every class that you have written. Notice it. I am about to scan this class. Oh, A and B, they are normal variables. I will not worry about it, because my duty is to search only for static variables. Notice the next line. I have now seen x and y and I came to know that they are associated with static. You might now ask, sir, so what? As soon as class loader finds such variables which are associated with the static keyword, what he now does is, he will take those variables, for example, x, for example, y. He will allocate the memory for them. He will allocate the memory for them. And he will not stop with one class, because you have written one more class. And I will start to scan this class also. Oh, there are no more static variables. Class loader will now tell, okay boss, my job is over. I have searched for the entire program and I have found two people who are associated with static keyword. For those two people, I have allocated the memory. My job is over. Oh, good. If your job is over, now what class loader does is, he will hand over the control back to JVM, telling that my job is over, you continue with the program. Notice this very carefully. As of now, we have never started off with the main method at all. Yes, everything starts from main, that is for sure. But before I go into the main, there is one activity which has to be completed. In my program, if there are static variables, for static variables first, I now need to allocate the memory. Second question is, where are they getting allocated memory now? In a separate space, which is specifically meant only for static variables, called as a static space. And class loader will tell my job is over and the control comes back to JVM. Might now ask, sir, next what? As soon as JVM now gets the control, it will now search for the main method. Yes, I have found the main method. Since you have now found the main method, the method should get executed. This is a very old story. Whenever control is about to enter any method, we all know that for that method, one activation record gets created. And the same thing happens even now. For your main method now, an activation record gets created for your main method. So this specific memory is only for the main method. Today it is required. Again, I will go one step forward and discuss about this now. Once your activation record is created, keep this in mind now, your entire code for that method, whatever is the code within that method, that gets loaded into the activation record. Your entire code for that method will get loaded into the activation record. Entire code for that method will get loaded into the activation record. This is what your activation record actually contains. Whenever an activation record is created, soon after the creation of the activation record, your entire code of that method will come and sit inside that. And now your execution starts. And during the execution, what you have now told is, during the execution, I want 3 variables. Oh, very good. You want 3 variables, I will give you. I'll just resize that space because I would require it. I would now tell